Schlock is a term that gets thrown out a lot when talking about certain movie films. But what does schlock mean? According to the dictionary, it refers to cheap or inferior goods or material. Trash. Now, trash can be seen as a bad thing, but as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and that also applies to certain movie films as well. A lot of films' best schlock has come from the 80s and 90s. With the arrival of the VHS rental market taking off during this time period, it allowed a ton of new production companies to take advantage of it and get their movie films out there to a wider audience. And one company that truly took advantage of this was Full Moon Features, and one of their best pieces of schlock is Trancers.
Jack Deth is back, and he's never even been here before. Trancers.
Trancers is a 1984 sci-fi action movie film directed by Charles Band. Band was the head of Full Moon Features and Empire Films, which brought us B-movies such as the Puppet Master series, Reanimator, Ghoulies, and the Trancer series. Trancers follows a cop with the greatest name of all time, Jack Deth, spelled D-E-T-H, cause you know that makes him cool as fuck. Deth is played by Tim Thomerson and is a cop in the future who hunts down Trancers, zombie-like brainwashed people controlled by the sinister Whistler. Sometime before the film started, Deth managed to hunt down and get Whistler. So our movie film begins with Deth as he's stopping off to get a spot of coffee. Inside the diner, he gets thick with one of the locals, accusing him of being a trancer. But oh shit, it's the waitress that's the trancer! That other lad says fuck this and does a legger, but stops to call the cops with this light show thingy. Back inside the diner, Jack is getting bushed by this trancer, but he manages to finally shoot her. Hashtag dusht. I mean for real, like she just turned to dust. The cops show up and it's Deth's old friend McNulty, and this being an 80s cop film, he chews Deth out for being a loose cannon.
Trancer hunting's out of bounds and you know it!
So of course, Deth tells him to shove it and quits the force. But sometime later when Deth is doing a spot of diving, McNulty shows up again with a summons for Deth by the council.
A summons from the council?
But Deth wants none of it and tells McNulty to piss off again. But that's when McNulty drops a bomb on Deth.
Whistler's alive!
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
Jack goes to the council building to find out what they want. Clearly he's being asked to sort out the plumbing in this place. I mean, look at the state of it. It turns out there used to be 3 council members, but recently one of them went hashtag dusht as he was killed by the totally not dead Whistler.
I thought there were 3 of you.
Van Zandt was murdered 4 days ago by Martin Whistler.
And it's true. Whistler's alive.
And how do they know this? Why, Whistler left a message, of course, detailing his whole evil plan. So let's have a listen.
This is going to you, junkies, your giants. The junkies bastards, yeah. Right, this is going to you now. You coming out, you told me. You're celebrating Tommy and Alvin. Tommy and Alvin, Dad me begged you 3 times in one night, and you cried in your daddy's face. You told me that. He came around then. You wouldn't box him the second time. He begged you to box. He cried outside Longford, outside my Mary's house in Longford. He cried like a big child. Told him right. He cried. He junkies bastards, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't the message they were meant to play. Anywho, it turns out that Whistler has gone back down the line. This is what time traveling is called in the Trancers universe, but unlike say Terminator or Back to the Future, they don't use a machine to physically go back. They send people back by sending their consciousness back in time into one of their ancestors, and Whistler has gone back in time to kill the council members, making it so they never existed. And that's how he's managed to dusht one of them already. How this doesn't cause a time paradox is beyond me, but fuck it, we just gotta go with it. So it's time to send our boy Jack back in time to get Whistler and bring him back up the line to stand trial. But Jack says fuck that, there is no way Whistler's coming back with him.
You're our only hope.
And it's on my terms.
Hashtag dusht. Kind of. Jack has a quick James Bond weapon scene where he is given a gun with a drug that will send him back up the line and a watch that gives him a long second. Basically allowing him to slow down time, turning a second into 10 seconds. The council also give him photos of their ancestors to hunt down and protect. With all that out of the way, they send Jack down the line into his ancestor Philip Deth. And here's Academy Award winner Helen Hunt as Lena showing her tits to the city. Jack pretends to be Phil and agrees to give Lena a lift to work, but before he can do that, he has to make himself look cool as fuck.
What are you doing?
Dry hairs for squids.
Lena works as a photographer for a mall Santa, but it turns out that Jack is on Santa's naughty list as Santa is a random trancer. So the two of them begin to bush the face off each other. Jesus, Jack's lucky this isn't the Santa Bill Goldberg played, or he'd be fucked. Jack ends up killing Santy right in front of some kids.
Hey Mom, I shot Santa Claus.
But Whistler can somehow telepathically talk through Santa and gives Jack a message.
Welcome to the 20th century, Jack Deth.
Jack, clearly spooked, runs off with Lena and spills the beans to her about being from the future, and explains to her that only weak-minded people can be turned into trancers.
Why doesn't he just turn you into one of these zombies? Or me?
You're too tough.
Tough?
Trancing only works on squids, people with weak minds, easily controlled.
Not really much of an explanation there, Jack, but I guess it's the best we're going to get from this movie film. Also, what in the name of Christ is Jack at with that steering wheel? He would be driving all over the shop. Lena decides to believe all this crazy talk Jack is telling her and agrees to help him track down the council's family members. But back at the mall, Whistler, now in the body of his detective ancestor, is on the case. And Santa's body just decides to disappear now? Why is no one freaking out and acting like this is normal? A man just disappeared. Anyway, Jack the Egypt has accidentally left behind a photograph of the council member's ancestor that has his last known address on the back of it. But luckily, Jack has pulled up to this tanning salon and gotten to the ancestor first and is there to protect him. Wait a second, what the fuck? How is he a trancer? Whistler just found out about him. Is super speed also one of his powers? Jack gets thrown into a futuristic tanning room and is about to be made all crispy when Lena decides she's had enough of waiting around and pops into the tanning shop, only to conveniently see this lad turn to dusht right before her eyes. I guess Whistler told him to dusht himself after he took care of Jack, but if he had a gun the whole time, why didn't he just shoot Jack?
It doesn't matter what you think!
Lena manages to free Jack from his tanning nightmare so he can deliver a one-liner.
How's my
Are
tan?
you okay?
The two try to get away but run into Whistler, who has his cops open fire. But Jack uses his long second to save Lena. Remember when I said this device allowed Jack to make a second stretch out to 10 seconds? Yeah, it's a little bit longer than that. It's actually about 90 seconds, but this long second allows Lena and Jack to get away, much to the confusion of Whistler and the cops.
How did he do that?
How indeed.
Jack and Lena decide to hide out in Chinatown and horsh some Chinese food into them while Jack comes up with a plan. But Lena wants to go dancing, so the two hit the punk rock club downstairs and Jack busts out some moves.
So how am I doing?
Not bad for a squid.
Jesus, he makes Van Damme look like a good dancer. Back in the club, Jack ends up bushing the face off some punks, which clearly turns Lena on. So you know where this is going? Straight to a spotter riding. But unfortunately for Jack, he ends up getting cock-blocked by McNulty, who has come back down the line and ended up in the body of a little girl.
What is this?
It's me, McNulty.
McNulty?
Wouldn't one of her parents have worked as well? I guess this bit of dialogue wouldn't have been as weird then.
Say, who's this good? Nice.
McNulty tells Jack he has to come back up the line, but Jack wants none of what McNulty's selling because all that's on his mind right now is getting a spotter riding off Lena. But that McNulty is the ultimate cockblock as he sends Jack back up the line himself. Wait, did they just leave the little girl with two people going at it? The council are pissed that Jack allowed one of them to be dusted, so they want to scrap the whole mission. But Jack knows he can get to the other one and stop Whistler. Yeah, I think we all know he just wants to get back to what he was doing with Lena. So Jack gets sent back down the line, only to have totally missed out on the spotter riding he was so looking forward to.
Well, Phil, I hope you enjoyed yourself again.
Wait, where did the little girl go to? Is no one concerned about her? Anyway, Jack and Lena head off to find Ashby, but not before Jack picks up a loadout drop and they steal some bikes. They track down Ashby to an abandoned warehouse where he's playing drunk baseball with a bunch of other bums. I'd like to say Jack's detective skills help him find him, but nope, they fall right on top of him and ruin the baseball game. They grab Ashby, but not before Whistler and his goons show up. Our heroes split up as the police chase them. Jack and Ashby get away untouched, besides their asses getting totally destroyed by these steps. But poor Lena ends up going right through a feckin' window. Really, that's all it took for her to get away from the cops? Our gang meets up at Lena's place where Jack makes Ashby take a shower to get the stink of bum off him, while he calls up Whistler and tells him he can have Ashby as long as Whistler leaves Lena alone. This pisses Lena right off, but don't worry, our boy Jack was only fibbing and he plans to set a trap for Whistler.
It was a trick?
Yeah, sure. I'm a cop. I'm doing my job.
But later that night their plan goes to shit as Whistler gets hold of Lena and tries to dusht Ashby, who is disguised as Jack. This plan already seems deeply flawed before Whistler ruined it. Whistler ends up throwing Lena off the building, but don't worry cause Jack's loadout drop had a second watch and he uses it to save her. But it looks like Whistler's gonna dusht the lot of them. That is until that good old drunk Ashby fucks a bit of rubbish at his head and knocks him right off the building into a fountain. Jack gets ready to send Whistler up the line, but there's a catch. He only has enough of the drug to send one of them back up the line.
Damn it!
What?
I had 2 vials of antidote, one for Whistler, one for me.
Jack says fuck it, he'll stay here and become his great-great-grandfather, and sends Whistler up the line where he has nobody waiting for him, because you know, it exploded earlier, so hashtag dusht, for real this time. With Jack's job done and no way to get home, Jack stays in the past, and it looks like he's finally going to get that spotter riding with Lena. Or will he? Trancers is a mixed bag in terms of quality. I think the concept of someone from the future travelling back in time by putting their consciousness into one of their ancestors is a great idea. Hell, so did the X-Men series, as they used the exact same plot in Days of Future Past to send Wolverine back in time. The moments between Deth and Lena are great, and both Helen Hunt and Tim Thomerson deliver pretty solid performances. And if the film was just about a cop from the future trying to hunt down Whistler while trying to fit in and get used to the past, it would be a much better story.
Beef? You mean like from a cow?
Yeah.
It's the Trancers themselves that bring the film down. It's never clearly explained how Whistler turns someone into a Trancer, or why they just suddenly look like a zombie out of nowhere, and why some of them seem to be mindless but then others seem to have some sort of intelligence. Also, Whistler seems to make random people Trancers. Like, why was Santa a Trancer? Did Whistler just one day say, you know what'd be great crack? Having Santa on my team. So he made this random mall Santa a Trancer? The same goes for the woman at the start in the diner. Was he just in there eating one day and said, you know what, I'm up for a spot of trancing, and just tranced this woman? Also, why does Whistler seem to have random superpowers and nobody else does? It's all kind of random, but then if it weren't, we wouldn't have Deth kicking some ass during the film. Visually, the film is a bit all over the shop as well, and you can tell it's a limitation of the budget, as some scenes like the diner look great and others, well, are just a toy car beside a model. But do these negatives take away from the overall enjoyment of the film? Somewhat sure, but its fun dialogue and cheesy B-movie feel along with solid leading performances give Trancers a sense of fun that actually only gets better on a second watch. If you are looking for some schlock to watch that will put a smile on your face, you can't go wrong with a spot of Trancers. I give Trancers a solid 6 out of 10 Horshes.